There and welcome back. Today is my favorite topic, nutrition. Nutrition is so cool because you have the ability to have a do-over every single time you have a meal. If you just really ruined your diet yesterday and had a cheat day, you can still make up for it today. And every single day you have an opportunity to feed your body what it needs to be healthy. And so first want to point out at the top of the program here, you're going to see program downloads. You're going to see that there's some grocery list recommendations that you can bring along to the grocery store of just some healthy foods to throw into your cart and incorporate into your diet. I've also included a fiber shopping list because of all of the nutrients that your body needs. I feel like fiber is the most difficult to get your hands on. So here we go. Today's topic, nutrition. Nutritional biochemistry is just basically how your body takes whatever you eat, metabolizes it, pulls out what it's going to use, and then gets rid of what it's not going to use. And this is kind of a cool little graph that shows what happens basically from when you take in some food as fuel. It gets broken down to glucose, gets metabolized through the pancreas, goes into the bloodstream, through the organs, either gets used or stored as fat. So, in order to figure out how much food you need to figure out how much you weigh, how tall you are, and how active you are. If you give your body too much fuel, kind of like giving your car tank too much gas, it's going to overflow. And the way that works in the body, you don't just pee or poop out all the extra food that you eat. All those extra glucose molecules that your body can't use either in your immediate bloodstream or in your muscle, it goes to your liver and gets stored in your liver, and then the rest gets stored as fat. And so every time you go and start to burn calories, you first have to burn that out first before you can start addressing the fat underneath your skin. And so you really want to keep a good flow of fuel in and fuel out in order to not store excess calories. And so you'll see here that we put in a couple of goals to track your weight and height. That's going to be important to figure out how many calories you need. Here's a calorie calculator that you can click on, and it makes it a lot easier to just enter the data here. So let's see, I'll do mine here. I'm 49-year-old female. My husband will laugh, but I'm 5'4" and 3/4 inches. I'm going to round up to 5, and my weight is 117 pounds. I exercise. It's important how much you exercise because your calorie intake and need depends on how much calories you're burning. So I am active. I exercise daily or intense 3 or 4 times a week. So let's calculate that. So in order for me to maintain my weight, this is the number of calories I need. I might want to lose weight. If I want to lose a little bit of weight slowly, carefully, then this is where I want to be. If I want to be aggressive with my weight loss, 1 pound a week, this is where I want to be. Really aggressive, wow, that's a pretty low calorie count. It's hard to get enough protein in to where you're not going to lose muscle and maintain a good body composition at this low of a calorie count. So now that we've calculated how many calories we need on a daily basis, then we want to set that calorie goal. It's a great idea to have a tracker where you can log your calories. And even if you don't plan to do this for the rest of your life, commit to doing it for a week because it will give you such valuable insights as to really what you're taking in. Here is a video that shows you how to log your calories on this app on BodySite. Take a minute to go through the tutorial. It's a very efficient way of logging your calories. They even have a barcode scanner, and you can even create recipes. If it's something that you do every day, let's say you make a protein shake every day, you can create the recipe and then just enter it every day. It makes it a lot easier to track that. You'll see here, it will show you a breakdown of how many carbs, how much protein, and how much fat you're taking in. And so once we know how many calories we need, we want to divide that further into the protein, carbohydrate, and fat ratios. A good rule of thumb is 40% protein, a little more protein than anything else. And then the rest gets divided between carbs and fat. The reason why I list out the ratios this way is because that's the way my mind works when I'm planning my plate. I want to think about protein first. Protein should be my primary responsibility in any meal. Your body needs about 1 gram of protein for every pound that you weigh if you want to really make sure that you're not losing muscle and if you want any hope of putting on muscle, especially after you're 40. And so planning your meals around protein will help make sure you fulfill that promise to yourself. And then you divide the rest of your meal up between carbs and fat. Members of Club Optimize, we dig very deep into how your diet is, what you're eating now, what you like or don't like to eat, what foods might inflame you or work better with your composition, and then we manage these ratios, because dialing this in based on what your goals are is key. And so when you download your fitness app, you'll see that you're able to dial in how many calories you want a day, and you can actually set your ratios in there to make sure that you're meeting all those needs. MyFitnessPal is another great app. I've included a list of some ways of getting 35 grams of protein. Protein is really important, but it's also hard to get. If you don't have much of an appetite, you tend to want to eat carbs. But if you just sit down and eat a bunch of carbs and only 5 grams of protein, you're going to lose muscle. You're not going to be able to build muscle. And so thinking of things in terms of how much protein do you need before you can start adding anything else to your diet, this is a good way of making sure you're getting in that adequate protein. Fiber is the second most important thing. Fiber usually comes from our carbs. And so when you're choosing that 30% of carbs a day, try to aim for those carbohydrates that are high in fiber. Those are going to be better glycemic index. You're going to be less likely to store glucose as fat if you're sticking with some of these carbohydrate foods that have fiber in them. Log your fiber. It's important because you'll see how difficult it is to get 30 grams a day. Chia seeds, flax seeds, oats, typically the darker the grain, the higher the fiber. I put together some meals here that will allow you to accomplish the 35 grams of protein and 10 grams of fiber. Quinoa and black bean salad, chickpea and spinach curry, grilled chicken and vegetable skewers. These are some things that you can do and some suggestions to help you meet those needs at home. Fats are important. Fats are responsible for the lining of your cells. Your cells are lipids, hormone production, your insulation, your nutrient absorption. All of these things make fat important. What's important is to regulate the type of fat. You don't want unhealthy saturated fat. You want good, healthy fats. Olive oil is probably the best kind of fat that you can take in, has the best profile as far as being anti-inflammatory and better for your cholesterol. Avocados, nuts, seeds, fatty fish, coconut oil, with a caveat. People that have a gene called ApoE with the designation 4 tend to be a little more sensitive to coconut oil and butter, and they tend to have higher cholesterol and higher cardiac risk. So in those patients that have that history, we keep them away from coconut oil or even butter. Most people can tolerate it very well. Here's a great tip. Avoid frying fat. Even your roasted nuts, we don't think about that typically, but that is something that creates toxinogenic molecules in the food, and that fried fat is actually quite dangerous for you. Here's the little note about that ApoE genotype and a little note about the test that we have for it. This can be done either through the blood or through a cheek swab and can help determine if you might have an increased risk of Alzheimer's or inflammatory heart disease. Everybody is born with 2 copies of an ApoE gene, and it's the number 4 designation that tends to be the one associated with this increased risk. Nutritional bioactive compounds are those compounds that are found in the fruits and vegetables we eat. Usually they're the chemicals that are responsible to lending the color to them, like the green leafy vegetables or the orange in our carrots. These all have chemicals that help our bodies function and provide the nutrients that help perform detoxification and absorption and use of all these nutrients. Do you wonder how your micronutrients are? You know, when we test your blood, a lot of times we're looking at the iron, we're looking at the folate, but are we really looking at the levels of vitamin B12? Are we looking at the levels of vitamin D? We have nutrient tests that can be done either through the blood or urine that can show us your exact nutrient levels. And beyond that, we actually have a program through our compounding pharmacy partner where we can take these results, upload them, and create your own formula of supplement that is specific for whatever the results are on those tests. Super cool. How is your nutrient absorption? Is your GI tract doing what it needs to do to break down what you're eating and pull those chemicals out of it? Check out my gut health protocol on Fullscript here. Nutrient interactions. Here's some interactions that are beneficial. Your vitamin D and calcium work together to make your bones strong. Your vitamin C and your iron. Vitamin C helps you absorb iron. Iron is very important for building red blood cells. You'll see some other synergies listed here. Nutrient toxicity. It's pretty rare that we see nutrient toxicities, especially with the way our food is regulated. However, we do see a lot of toxicities with pesticides. Unfortunately, pesticides and crops are a delicate balance because we have to protect the crops from the little critters that like to eat them, but we also don't want to expose ourselves to too much toxin. So making sure that our bowels are functioning well, that we're rinsing our vegetables really well to try to get off as much toxin as possible, and eating organic when you're able. Nutritional genomics, we discussed a lot in the detoxification section, but your genes really play a role in how well you metabolize things, both from chemical reaction standpoint down to the macronutrients like protein, fat, and carbohydrates and fiber. The genetic DNA test gives a lot of information about your specific gene structure and what deficiencies you might be experiencing because of your genetic makeup. I hope you enjoyed this lecture today about nutrition. Take a look at the program downloads for some grocery list suggestions and also some sample reports of testing that we typically do that helps guide some of the nutritional choices we make in Club Optimize. Take care, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.